Good afternoon and welcome to my Facebook Live, my Live with Michelle. Sorry, I keep forgetting I'm also now on YouTube as well. So welcome today. My name is Michelle Dutressa, and I'm an independent demonstrator. Let me just move that light across a little bit there. I'm an independent demonstrator in New South Wales, Australia. And if you've never been on here before, please jump on and say hello. And let me know where you're from. It's always great seeing new people joining us. Now, last week on my live, I made a page to use in my scrapbook, which we just stamped it. And today we're actually going to finish that off and make that into a completed scrapbook page. The only thing I may not be able to get on there today will be my journaling, and that is just because I have to work out what I'm going to write. So let me just flip this camera. If someone is on here, hi Linny, how are you? Please let me know if you can hear me okay. That would be great. So let me flip my camera and let's have a look at this page that I did last week. So this is the page that I stamped last week, and for this page we used the Brightest Beauty stamp set along with the Pretty Medallion. And what else did I use? Oh, I used let me have a look, see if I've still got it here, the Crane of Fortune stamp set. So they're the 3 stamp sets we used last week. And today we're going to complete this by adding some photos. So I've been having a little bit of a play, trying to work out whether I'm going to cut this up or whether I'm going to leave it all as one piece. But I have decided to leave it as in one piece. Hi, Glenda. Thanks for joining today. But I do want to sort of tone this down a little bit in some areas. So what I've grabbed a piece of vellum, and I didn't want to, I've got a straight edge on 3 sides of this, but on the 4th side, I've actually torn this. I don't know whether you can see it. I've got my camera sitting up a little bit higher than normal, just so then all this fits in to your screen. The vellum comes in an A4 size, so it's not in a 12 by 12. So by just tearing down one side and just tearing that edge off, it just makes it look like it would, or gives the illusion that maybe it was a 12 by 12. And I've just torn a section off because this is the area here that I'm going to be putting majority of my photos, and this is the other area. I just want to leave the decoration in sort of full strength, not so muted. I also, last week in stamping this, because when it came to stamping the flowers in this, I was stamping off, so it became much lighter. But up here in this section here, I stamped it full strength. So by putting a piece of vellum over that, it also just quietens that a little bit, but we're also going to pop a photo on top. So far, that's what I've decided to do. I'm just going to move this out of the road for a moment and bring in my photos. Now, these photos I had printed probably a good 20 plus years ago, and I had them printed with borders around it. Now, I was going to go and get these reprinted, but unfortunately, time ran away with me and I didn't get around to it. So they have aged a little bit. They are going not as bright white around the edges. So I've decided I'm going to cut those white borders off because I do like a nice crisp white border. So I've got my little guillotine here. Hi, Joan. Thank you for joining. And I'm going to trim these down. So I love these little guillotines just for trimming my photos. And I'm lining up the edge of my guillotine with the edge of my photo, because I really don't want to take too much of the photo away. I am just wanting to take away those white edges. Oops, that one there is just not at that. Need to be a little bit squarer. Let's just give that a bit more of a trim. I am going to add the white edges back, but I am going to add it back with my cardstock because I know that is a nice crisp white. I love matting photos. I think matted photos really make your photos stand out. So that's that one. So that's now slightly smaller than a 4x6. Bring that one down as well. Yeah, by putting a mat underneath your photos, and depending on the size of your photos, you can change the way your photos look, because I was originally planning to get one of these photos actually printed up larger than the other one. But I've ended up, because I'm using the photos I've got here, 2 photos that are approximately the same size. Because I've cut this down, they might be a little bit different. No, pretty much the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to mat one of these photos with a slightly bigger mat, and that's going to give an illusion also that I've got a larger photo and a smaller photo, because I really don't want to crop any more out of these photos. When you look at your photos and you look at cropping photos, you want to look at a photo and crop away things that you don't want to have. Like normally there's a PowerPoint right there. Normally I would crop that and get that PowerPoint out, but if I crop this photo, I'm actually going to be chopping part of my arm off, and I really don't want to do that. So you sort of look at a photo and you've got to judge what can be removed and what not can be removed. Always take into account too, if you're working on some older photos, there might be details in that photo that is relevant to your family and you don't necessarily want to crop it off. Good example is I've got a photo somewhere, or my husband has, of the combi van that his father used to have. And there's details in that photo that we've left in there. We could have very easily cut a lot of them out. But one of those details is a number that was printed on the side of the van. And that number had a relevance to my father-in-law. So Joe didn't want that chopped out. So, I could have chopped that right in, because I think in the photo was the combi van with my mother-in-law and my father-in-law standing to one side of it. Could have cut a lot of that out and just really gone in tight on them. But in doing that, I would have removed other things that had historical information that my husband wanted to keep. So when you look at a photo, don't crop it down too much. Just really have a look for balance, and also what you want to keep in it and what you may not want to keep in it. And so you want things to be fairly even. So these photos here, because they were taken by a professional photographer, usually with their photos you can't crop them in too much. So they're pretty good, and all I'm just done is just remove that white border. So now I want to replace that white border again, and I've got 2 pieces of basic white here, which I've already cut, and I've cut them at 4 by 6. I'm working in inches here because that is the standard photo size. And you can see there that if I pop that into there and center it, I've got a nice wide border. Now, if I'm doing double borders, I might cut that down a little bit finer. And on one of these, I am going to do a double border, and one of these I am still going to do a double border, but slightly different. So the photo I've decided to make or give the illusion to look bigger is going to be this one. So I'm going to keep my white border for the moment at that size. This particular photo here, I actually want to make my white border a lot narrower. So we've got to work out what size I want to make this. Now, what I generally find easy to do with this is position where my photo is going to be, and then I trim down that excess. Now, I'm going to use seal for this, just for the fact that I don't like putting glue on the back of my photos. Now, all our products are acid free, so they should be photo friendly and should be right. And all I want to do is just put a little bit of adhesive in each corner. Now, you are going on it. The back of the paper is a little bit slippery, so you might have to sort of play a little bit to make sure that adhesive grips onto it. But I'm only just putting a bit into each corner. It just makes, if I've got to remove the photos at any time for any reason, a little bit easier. If I put glue all over the back of it, once it's glued down, that's it, it's stuck. Whereas if I need to remove this, all I need to do is grab a piece of dental floss, pop it underneath the photo, between the photo and my mat, my basic white cardstock, and then saw it through. So I've positioned that where it is and where I want it to go, and I want to have that small edge around my photo. So I just need to trim these ones down. Now I am taking this by eye, but if I was going to be working this out, I would say it is probably about 1/16 of an inch all the way around, or around about 1.5 mil. So we're going to trim that off there and trim that back down there as well. So I'm quite happy with that. And then this one here I'm going to mat on a piece of Pool Party, because Pool Party was one of the colors I used in the stamping. It was one of the background pieces, and that I'm going to have right in the middle there. So this piece of cardstock here is cut. Okay, the photos finished up roughly 4 by 6. So this one here is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. So it's just that little bit bigger. And I might just double check my measurements on that and make sure I am right on saying that. Whoops. No, it's actually 6 1/8 by 4 1/8. So again, I'm just going to pop a bit of adhesive on the back of this one. And adhere that down. Again, leaving an equal border all the way around. So that's matted like that. Now I am going to pop one more mat behind this. Now this is going to be my smaller one, and I'm not going to glue it down just yet, but I want to put a bit of journaling on here, and I've decided that my journaling is going to go along the bottom here, because there's not much journaling to put on there, but I want to see how this is all going to look once I get it on. So this is basically triple matted it with a wider piece at the bottom. So again, I've taken it probably about another 1/4 of an inch or so bigger all the way around. Yeah, about 0.75 of a centimetre, but I've made it quite a bit bigger at the bottom, and this is where I'm going to either hand print my journaling or computer print. Probably in this case I will hand print it, because I want to get this all done today if possible. So I'm going to pop that to one side for the moment. We're going to bring this one back in, and I'm going to mat this one on here. Now I've going to decide this is going to be my photo which I want to look bigger, even though it isn't bigger. So I'm going to put my mat around it and leave it that little bit wider. But with this piece here, I've actually made it considerably bigger, because what I want to do is offset that photo. So I'm going to have a wider piece here at the side and have a wider border around the other 3 sides, because I'm going to decorate this area, because I want to give this illusion that this is a much bigger photo, even though it is the same as this one here. Now there's lots, if you're not quite sure what to do with scrapbooking and layouts, there's lots of examples around that you can use. There's a company that I look at quite a bit, which is called Page Maps. You can go on to Pinterest, and there is always sketches of different layouts and layout styles, and you can just make them your own. You just play around with different elements. I've sort of played around a lot this morning trying to work out what I'm going to do, because this is something, when I come to scrapbooking, I can tend to procrastinate a lot. I've known myself to have a page layout sitting on my desk for a week or more until I'm 100% happy. So this time I didn't want to be doing that. I wanted to get this done today because this is the first page of my album. It's not going to be the first page in my album, but it is of being married to my husband for 26 years. This is the first page that I will actually have finished to go into my album. So I'm going to have my vellum sitting on that piece like that. This one here, I'm sort of thinking of having it across there, so it's hiding that bit that I've done, but I don't want to hide all of this wattle on here because the wattle is quite important to me. I did have wattle in my hair that day, and now I've got that piece there, and I've got to work out how I'm going to mat this, whether I'm going to have that, because I don't want it to make it look bigger like that one again. I do want it to be looking like it is smaller, but it is going to have journaling underneath there. And I think what I might do is go back and make myself a smaller border around that. So I'm going to trim off some of this side here. I'm going to grab a pencil, and let's just put a little bit of a pencil mark just there. I can rub that out, and I'm going to trim that down. A lot of scrapbooking is laying things out, working out where you want them to go, and then playing around with sizes and trimming, tearing. Love to tear when it comes to scrapbooking because you get really nice soft edges. That's going to go on there, and then that will leave me space to do a little bit of journaling down the bottom. This is the photo I want to highlight. So what I think we might do is we might start at least popping this piece down. So with vellum, you don't want to have adhesive showing through. So you want to put your adhesive where you know it's going to get covered. And I know that I'm going to have a piece of my photo and my cardstock going across there. So I'm just going to pop some adhesive just there. Just want to straighten that up a little bit. And then my second photo is going to go here a bit, so I can pop a little bit of adhesive just there. So that's going to be enough to hold my vellum there in place. And by putting my adhesive underneath, I know that these photos are going to cover these areas up. Now I want to decorate this one here. So I'm just going to move that out of the road. I'm bringing in a scrap here. I've already done some die cutting, and I'm using the wattle pieces, the dies that go with the stamp set that we use. But I wanted to show you what I've done here. I've pre-cut most of this because I thought it's just too many tiny weeny little pieces. So I've cut a few of these pieces here in soft succulent. And what I'm going to do with these pieces now, I've got some very small brushes here, and I'm just going to add a little bit more colour to these stem pieces here by just brushing that on. And I don't need to be perfect in that. I just want to add a little bit of colour. I've already done that one there. You can see it's just slightly darker. Now, I'm not quite sure yet how many of these pieces I'm going to use, so I am going to do all of them. These are such beautiful fine pieces, and these are going to sit on that pool party piece. Oops, did all that on the wrong side. Let's try that again. this one. And I've already done that one. So that's all I'm going to do with all those leaves and stems. Now, with the actual little, let me just move those out of the road, those dies there. With these little flowers, I've already pre-cut these, but I just want to show you what I've done. Now, what I did here is I got a piece of So Saffron, and then you again just using one of the brushes. You could use one of the bigger ones, but this is just what I had handy. I've got the Daffodil Delight and Mango Melody. Sorry, Daffodil Delight, yeah, and Mango Melody. Oh, I'm not thinking right today. So move those out of the road and these. And all I did with this, because I just didn't want to have the straight colour. So I'm just going to add a little bit of the Daffodil Delight onto my brush. And I'm not going to brush it on here. I actually pushed it down and just like made like a splodge. Is the only way I can think of calling it. Because what I wanted with those little flowers, if you look at wattle, wattle is two-toned or even three-toned. Wattle can be in a very, very almost just a creamy colour with a slight little bit of yellow to it, or it can be a really bright Mango Melody type colour. It comes in all sorts of colours, and I think even some wattle can have a little bit of pinks in them. So what I wanted was a variety of colour, and all I'm doing is just pushing that brush down and just using the two colours and just adding those splodges all over. And just having like a real mottled effect. So I don't know whether you can see that, but it's just like really mottled. And don't worry if some areas are darker than others, because by the time you die cut all of that, as you can see here, I've cut all those pieces out, and I'm left with all these pieces here that are of a variety of different colours. You know, they've got, I don't know whether you can see that, but a portion of that is light and dark, and that's the effect that I wanted to get. I just didn't want just a straight colour, because I mean flowers and wattle and things like that, they're not a flat colour. They're made up of lots of different colours if we actually really look into them. So that's what I've done to create what I have here. So now we're going to have a bit of a play and see what we can put together. So I'm just going to remove these dies. I've got lots of little bits here, and we're going to work just on this side panel here, and we're going to layer some of these pieces on. So we're just going to work out where we want some of these to go. Now we can use the big pieces. You've got big and small. We only really want a few of these, whether we want some of it. Don't want to put glue on the photos if possible. I'm not a lover of gluing things all over the top of my photos. I think my photos have to be the focal point of any scrapbooking layout. The rest is just all really just decoration and giving some interest to your page. So I think I want something like that. And then we're going to put the flowers on top. So I'm going to use my glue. I might just see if I can take this off, because I think, see where I've put it. Put things somewhere safe, and now you've got to find them. So let's just remove this piece here. Now this is your take a pick tool, of course, and you can buy your brush piece for getting the pieces out of your dies as a separate component. And this is the putty piece that actually comes with your tool, making sure that I've got that screwed in, going the right direction. Looks like I've got the new one here and not the old one. That's okay, it'll work. Now, just get that to screw in. Easier said than done. Let's try the other way. Just trying to get that to grip into that. I think it's now screwing. No, it doesn't like me. This really does not like me today. Just trying to get the thread going the right direction. Oh, let's try doing it without it. Okay. Spending too much time trying to do that. So let's just pop some glue onto here. Oops, too much glue coming out there. There is a trick for that. Get a bit of scrap cardstock, put that glue onto there so it's not wasted, and we're just going to dip that in. Now, of course, I could have used the adhesive sheets, but I don't necessarily always like to have things looking like they've glued solid down. Now, I am going to grab a pair of tweezers. I should have tweezers out of the bossing kit. Works really well for this. Okay, let's just pop that one down. There, like that. Let's grab this one. Okay, so I'm going to pop that all onto there. One of the ladies from who came back today after being away with COVID. She ended up in hospital with heart problems, so I stayed well clear of her. Probably a good idea, Glenda. It's yeah, but we're not going to think about those today. Let's keep creating. Okay, so I like some of these bigger pieces of wattle. And let's just add a bit of glue on the back of these. See, I'm going to end up with very gluey fingers. Actually, glue dots might work really well on some of these. So let's just grab our glue dots. And let's put some of these, at least some of these big ones, on here. I'm going to lay the big ones down first, and then that's the end of those. Got a new packet just here, and then we can add some of the little ones all around. So I hope you all are having nice weather where you are. We've got a bit of rain and that around us here. Do you have rain where you are, Lenny? Oops, that one moved off the glue dot. Fold that back under. Another big one. And then we've got some smaller ones here too. So we might even not put your finger straight in the glue, Michelle. That's where I wish I could have got this back in. It might be a case of get the husband to look at it. Just see if I put this in. Golly, I end up with glue everywhere. Put lid on glue. Okay, so that's going that way, which is clockwise. Problem with molded plastic, you don't always have exactly the same. Oh, I'm really having a hard time with that. So let's go back to this. I'm just going to pop a couple of little tiny weeny little dots. We don't want to go too big. And let's see if we can just add some of these small. These are just that little bit tiny and a little bit fiddly. So bear with me. It will be worth it in the end, Michelle. I'm going to get these on there before those spots of glue dry. And just make sure there are this one here, this die piece here gives you, trouble, gives you a variety of sizes. So you can sort of play around with different sizes and add different ones in different places. Just mix them all up. You don't want to have them all exactly the same. I've lost that bit of glue just there. You do want to have a few of these probably even overlapping a little bit. a little bit more glue on that one. Have a look where else we could add some more. Got glue, bit of glue just there, so let's add another one there. Move that around. So this is just adding until you're happy with what you've got. And make sure you turn, if you've got two big ones together, turn them around. You can have them overlapping a little bit. You could even put a little dimensional underneath the bigger ones, if you want to sort of have them sitting up. But I think I'm quite happy with this. I just want to put wattle is clumps. They're not like lots of individual. Well, there are lots of individual flowers, but they're all built up and clumped up together. So you could have, one here, but then have two or three in another spot. Don't be afraid to overlap and add more. And I think I might have just about enough on there now. So let's just have a look. Let's get rid of all of that so we don't get glue in places where we don't want glue. We'll keep those. They might be able to be used again somewhere. Where I'm going to put them is another thing. Let's take that, pop that there. Yeah, I had to try it anti-clockwise, Glenda. I'm a little bit unsure of that one. Okay. And if worst comes to worst, I'll just go and buy myself another one because I'm sure I could do it too. And then I can have one with my brush on it and one without. So we're going to have that photo there. Probably don't want to cover up too much of that piece of wattle there because I want it to be seen. And I'm going to have that one. Okay. I think I'm happy with that. So let's glue some of this down. So this piece here, I'm going to I'm not going to glue that one down just yet because I do have my journaling I want to put on there. This piece up here I want to glue down. Now, I'm not using any dimensionals in this, just for the fact that I don't like a lot of lumpy bumpy. I like layers, but I don't like too much height when I'm doing pages for my scrapbook album, because what can happen is if you've got too many hard things or too much height, and you've got it into an album, and your album is actually quite tightly packed with photos and everything and pages, you can get indentations from one page onto another. So I like to keep everything at a reasonable sort of height. I've never used a lot of brads or anything in my scrapbook albums, just so then I can keep my photos, because, they're the records. I mean, they're things that I want to last for, a few more generations yet. So my boys and children that they may have got something to look back on. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think I'm going to pop my journaling onto that, but that will be where that's going to go there. I don't really want to put too much more on there because I've got all of this and I still want it to be seen. I just wanted to tone it down a little bit by putting the vellum on top and putting some larger photos on it, so then the photos aren't getting lost within that page. So that is pretty much how that's going to turn out. So all I've got to do is write on there. I've got a sister that lives in England with her husband and son, and unfortunately they weren't able to come over to our wedding. So they sent us those beautiful flowers, which just happened to be the same colour as the wattle that I had in my hair. So that's why I'm using a lot of wattle in this, because the Australian native flowers were quite important for this day. So I just wanted to show you one other thing, because when I created this page last week, I also created another one, and I ended up using it in a card that I made for a blog hop that I was involved in with the Creativity Abounds design team that I'm a member of, and this is the card that I created for it. So when you create a page like this, you don't need to use it for scrapbooking. You can do it on your A4, you can do it on your 12 by 12, and then you can cut it up and use it on your card front. So this is basically what I've done here. I've just cut up a piece that I had done. And again, I've got my torn edge. I've used one of the new dies here in your annual catalogue, and just to give you a bit of a hint on this die, it is supposed to be up the other way. I've turned it upside down because I wanted the lattice work to be in this corner. And when you cut out your die, and it has one side has got a nice smooth edge and the other side has got a little bit of a raised edge. Well, this is the raised edge side. I turned it upside down, so then it was coming from at this corner here, because when I tore this, I liked the wattle being on this side of the tear. So that's what that card was. And on the inside of this card, again, was just another piece that I had in that piece that I'd cut out, and I hadn't stamped the whole piece of the A4 cardstock. And I thought this worked out quite well, because I've just got a little area here now to write my message, and that card will be hopefully flying over to England to my sister to give her a few memories of our wattle that we have here in Australia. And at this time of the year, the wattle is actually out and blooming. You can see it all up and down our highways. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed seeing me create a scrapbook page today. It is a fairly simple scrapbook page. I don't do overly complicated pages. I just like to get my photos into albums and have my photos as being my focal point. So I don't do too much. alterations to photos or adding a lot of stuff to it. But in saying that, I do like to sometimes add a few layers. So I do like to tear. So I love the tearing, and you can create lots of interest in tearing your cardstock as well. So I hope that another time I can sit down and work out a great layout, and maybe take this layout or a layout similar to this up a notch and show you what else you can do with scrapbooking. Because as I said last week, this was my first love, scrapbooking, and then I got a bit more into card making. So have a lovely day. I hope you're able to get outside and enjoy the weather. Here, it's, as I said, it's a bit gloomy, a bit wet. I think I'll be staying inside I've been working around a little bit of a head cold, so I'll be staying inside and keeping warm for a few more days, I think. So take care. Enjoy, do some scrapbooking this afternoon if you can, or even some card making, and please share, tag me in them so I can see what you're making. So have fun, take care, and we'll see you next week as we create again. Bye for now.